Good morning, happy shiny people. How are you today? Well, I don't know if you've heard, but we have a couple of snowstorms coming across the United States. And not only that, but I mean, there are two or three more behind that. We probably won't get too far into the future, but I do want to continue to talk about the two storms that are coming. One this weekend that'll probably be a nor'easter across the central Atlantic and then into New England mostly. And then the second storm that we've been talking about for the plains into the Great Lakes and the Midwest. And, the models have not been agreement, especially on that second storm. Things are coming into focus a little bit. I don't know. We're still quite a ways out for that. Things can change, and they've changed again today. So I'm excited again. Looks like the snow might be back on for at least Omaha and maybe for western Iowa as well. But let's take a look, shall we? We'll start with what's going on right now across the country as far as watches and warnings issued by the National Weather Service. We'll start up in the Pacific Northwest where we do have, looks like winter storm watches or those warnings now. Winter storm watches in effect for the southern Cascades, and then as we get into the Siskiyous of Northern California, also for the Sierra Nevada. In the brown, high wind warnings for parts of Nevada and into California. And then further south, high wind warnings north of LA. So that sounds like fun. Wind advisories around that. And I think, is that a winter weather advisory or a winter storm watch? Just that little tiny county. That's really hard to see anyway. All right, let's move into Idaho. Looks like some dense fog not too far from Boise along the Snake River in south central Idaho. Parts of Utah, we're looking at a winter weather advisory because we're already starting to see some of that snow coming down. Dense fog advisory along the Colorado. That's the Arizona, Nevada, Arizona, California border. Southern Arizona, freeze warnings now in effect. That includes Tucson and much of Pima County. And then other parts of Arizona got a freeze watch north of that towards Phoenix. And then as you get into eastern Arizona, western New Mexico, and northern New Mexico, you have winter weather advisories or winter storm warnings, depending. Winter weather advisories now for the panhandle of Texas, for the panhandle of Oklahoma, northern Oklahoma, much of Kansas, the western half, and a little bit of the southern side. I think Wichita's involved in that, and also parts of Nebraska in that winter weather advisory. So be advised, there'll be winter weather. Also dense fog advisories all the way down to Lubbock and the South Plains. Also looking at Roosevelt and Curry counties in New Mexico. And then also further to the north in Nebraska and up in South Dakota, parts of Montana. And then a little bit of the Arrowhead of Minnesota with a winter weather advisory. And we're not done yet. We got a couple flood warnings on a couple rivers in South Carolina and a winter storm watch for near the mountains here of North Carolina. That is a lot going on. You know why? Because there's a lot going on. Let's take a look at our snow depth. This would be midnight on the 11th. So pretty much after both storms have moved through, this is what we're looking at. So again, starting on the west coast, we've got lots of snow for the Cascades and the Olympic Mountains, a little bit of snow for the Oregon Coast Range, snow for the Siskiyous and down to the Sierra Nevada, eastern Oregon, eastern Washington, lots of snow, Montana, Idaho, lots of snow. Then we get into the plains of Montana, less snow, but still snow, North Dakota 2, South Dakota 2. Further to the south in the Four Corners, that's a lot of snow for northern Arizona and New Mexico, moving into the panhandle of Texas. And we're talking Lubbock getting some snow according to this model as well. So down in the South Plains of Texas, maybe even a little bit of snow in the Dallas area. Is that possible? It's possible. The bullseye from the plain storm on this model would be southern Kansas, but pretty good amounts, 6 to 8 inches according to this, moving up into Nebraska and crossing the river a little bit into Iowa. But Iowa, mostly 4 to 6 inches on this model. And then another big swath from southern Missouri right through Illinois into Chicago, into Michigan, and into Canada, And then we see heavy snow, Virginia, West Virginia, into Pennsylvania, New York State, northern New Jersey. Long Island gets missed on here, but we do have Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire, and into Maine with heavy snows as well. That's the Canadian. The Euro, let's see if we see much difference here. Euro a little bit different. So let's just concentrate on our 2 snowstorms that are coming. So for the Northeast on the Euro, less snow, but still some good snows for West Virginia, especially mountains of North Carolina too. This one's a little further south on that. Some pretty good snows for parts of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, into Maine. Not too bad for Massachusetts. Connecticut, less for New York City, less for northern New Jersey. GFS. Oh, I forgot the Plain Storm. Plain Storm. Less snow for you, Lubbock, Texas, but still some snow across the South Plains on this model. Heavier snow north of Amarillo and into southern Kansas, and then up into northern Missouri, and also the Omaha area, eastern Nebraska, western Iowa. So that's where I live, western Iowa. We're back on track for a possible 6 to 10 inches of snow here, maybe up to a foot in some areas if this comes true. Some pretty good snows, not too bad for Minnesota. And then there's that swath again. So we have agreement on this from basically southern Missouri through Illinois, through Chicago, northern Indiana, into Michigan. What does the GFS say? Because we're going to go through that model for you here in just a second. GFS on the East Coast looking similar to the other 2. So we're getting some pretty good agreement in the models for our Noreaster for this weekend. Then we look at the Plain Storm and the Midwest Storm. And again, well, for you South Plains and Lubbock, sorry on this model, but some pretty good snows north of Amarillo through Kansas up into Nebraska, less as we get into Iowa. And then we're looking at a lot of snow. And again, we're looking at blizzard conditions with this from Missouri into Illinois, just south of Chicago, all of Indiana, and some good snows for Ohio and Michigan. All right. Let's take a look here and see what's going on. Oh, I've got the wrong map up. I put it on here so I could see it because my camera's in the way of one of my screens. So anyway, I'm just trying to see what I'm doing so I can tell you what I'm saying. That makes a lot of sense. All right, GFS model. This is the latest run. In fact, it's still running. It's not finished yet. So this is the latest, greatest. We're starting at January 4th, 6Z. That would have been midnight on the 3rd. So we're moving into current time. So this would be 6 o'clock this morning. And here we are. This would be 15 minus 6 is 9 o'clock, an hour and a half ago. And we see the low starting to form here in New Mexico, really right on the Four Corners. And we see where the snow is already coming down. This is why we have our winter storm warnings and our winter weather advisories for New Mexico, back in Arizona, back in Utah as well. And we see our next system moving on shore with a lot of snow in the Cascades and rain for the lower elevations of Oregon. Typical. I grew up in Oregon, so anyway. More snow in northern New Mexico as this storm gets going. Now, if we see rain coming down, moving into the Dallas area, mineral wells, we've got snow up at the panhandles, and then back into eastern Colorado and moving now into Kansas. This is approaching January 5th. So here we are, Friday, January 5th. Some pretty good snows coming down in Oklahoma. Maybe even some thunderstorms down around Tyler, Paris, Texas, down to Houston and Corpus Christi. Light snow in the Intermountain West. Moving right along. And we see some heavy rain now breaking out in Louisiana, Mississippi, up towards Memphis. And that low is now tracking along the Gulf Coast. Thunderstorms continuing Alabama into Georgia. We're on midnight on the 5th. Some snow on the top side now, busting out in parts of Missouri into Illinois and Indiana. And then continuing, see the ice for North Carolina and for Virginia. Yes, Virginia, there's some ice coming. West Virginia too. And some pretty good snows here near Cincinnati, Louisville, Lexington, also parts of Indiana, light snow up with a little clipper system that's hugging the Canadian border, but bringing some snow into Minnesota, mostly UP of Michigan, some lingering snow back here in northern New Mexico, northeastern New Mexico. This low is starting to strengthen now. We're still seeing a mixture of ice and snow as we move into Maryland, northern Virginia, Pennsylvania, now starting to see some heavier snow. Storm is moving fast, but it's also gaining strength. Snowing still Pennsylvania now into New York, heavy snow northern New Jersey, and rain along the coast and southern New Jersey as the storm strengthens. It looks like rain along the coast and then heavy snow not too far inland. And then it starts to strengthen and moving off. We're into the weekend now. So this is the morning of Sunday. And really heavy snow coming down. Cape Cod, other parts of Massachusetts, Delaware getting some heavy, Rhode Island getting some heavy snow. Connecticut too. Back to snow in Long Island and the city. And also northern New Jersey, some lighter snow. New York, Pennsylvania, still getting snow. West Virginia too. Our next storm starting to form here in the Four Corners again. And then our Noreaster strengthens actually, and moves offshore, and it skedaddles out of here as we move. This is Sunday night at midnight. Goodbye, storm number 1. Hello, storm number 2. Starting to strengthen. It's colder. It's a colder storm. We have snow all the way down here towards Deming, New Mexico. Silver City, New Mexico. They're in the mountains, so not unusual for snow for them. But Deming, hello. Alamogordo, maybe. And some snow back in Arizona as well. And we're starting to see some light snow out ahead of the storm up here in Nebraska. Again, this is Sunday night, the 7th at midnight Central Time, 1 a.m. Eastern on the 8th. So we're starting to see heavier snow up here into Nebraska, southern South Dakota as we get into the 8th. And our light snow continues, half the calories of our regular snow, into New Mexico. Rain coming down in, Oklahoma and back into Texas along the Red River. Heavier rain now as we move into East Texas, eastern Oklahoma. Heavier snows now starting to form in Nebraska. Nebraska, you really need to pay attention to this storm because it's going to be fun for you. It's going to be fun for you too, Missouri and Illinois and possibly in Nebraska and Iowa. And we're already starting to see this low getting stronger. The winds are starting to pick up a little bit. We're not talking blizzard conditions yet, but as we get into the afternoon and evening of the 8th, we're starting to see stronger winds, some heavy snow with this, but all of Kansas pretty much getting snow. And the eastern, 2/3 of Nebraska getting snow. I'm getting snow here in western Iowa as well. But the heavy snow is down here in Missouri and moving into Illinois with some good thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast and also into Arkansas. And as we move into the 9th, we see these winds really getting stronger. I don't know if this blizzard conditions, but definitely some blowing snow, some heavy snow into Missouri, back in parts of Oklahoma and Kansas. Lighter snow with some wind, Iowa and Nebraska, and even lighter snow with less wind up here in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Look at Indiana, just getting hit hard with snow. This will be moving into Ohio here in the next couple frames. And also eastern Illinois, seeing some good snow. This is 3 a.m. on Tuesday the 9th. Moving ahead in time. Now, here you go. This is probably a blizzard, if this comes true, for Missouri, for Illinois, and some rain changing to snow in Ohio, more snow for Pennsylvania. Watch this area of rain, very heavy rain, and it's going to start moving into the areas of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast that got some snow, and depending on which model you believe and how much snow you ended up getting, this could still be flooding concerns from the rain alone for South Carolina into Georgia and even North Carolina and into Virginia. Meanwhile, on the backside, we've got probably blizzard conditions continuing for Missouri and into Illinois and into Chicago. This would be noon Central Time on the 9th. And as we get into the afternoon and evening, you see very strong winds. Heavy snow become lighter, but still blowing around Illinois and into Michigan now, seeing heavy snow and a lot of wind. And you see the rain moving up the East Coast, raining on that snow. And the snow winding down with the low, but the strong winds are still here, blowing snow around as this storm exits into Canada. And that brings us to the 10th, and this would be 9 a.m., the 10th, Central Time. Now, just for fun, let's watch where this low goes. Watch this. Bring in some more snow for my area, for Nebraska and Iowa. That would be Thursday, Wednesday and Thursday. And then just for fun, there's another big storm rounding the corner down here. And, we'll see it strengthen, and we'll see exactly where that goes later on in time. But that could be interesting for the middle part of January. So there you go. That is my update for this morning. It's 10:46 right now as I'm finishing recording on January 4th. Knocking this out during my lunch. Why not? It's fun. I love weather, and I know you do too. That's why I started this channel. So why not like and subscribe? Why not? Maybe I can catch up to some of those channels that I love and watch all the time. That would be fun too. Anyway, you have yourself a great rest of the day, and we'll keep you posted. I'll have another video tomorrow, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. Have a good day.